Maurice Nicole's Psychological Commentaries, Volume 3, based on Nicole's work with Gurdjieff, Ouspensky, and Jung. Khurramid Ugly, September 22, 1945, the second line of the work, video 2 of 3. As you know, the work divides mankind into 7 categories. These are mechanical, numbers 1, 2, and 3 man. Number 4 man is transitional, and numbers 5, 6, and 7 man belong to the conscious circle of humanity, and can no longer be called machines. But the vast majority are mechanical, governed by external impressions. Now, in relating yourself to other people, that is, beginning to think what the second line of work means and to apply it, it is sometimes said that you must begin with the idea that other people are machines. But this is quite wrong and should never be said. What you have to begin from is the idea that you yourself are a machine. Only through self-observation carried out rightly can you begin to see your own machine, your own mechanicalness. However, as we take ourselves and other people as being fully conscious, as capable of independent action, as not being ruled by past associations, in short, as not being machines. So in consequence, we blame people very much for not behaving to us as we think they ought to behave. And through this, we start trains of inner talking and negative emotions. Probably you all know how we're always very disappointed in other people. We expect our husbands and wives and our sisters and cousins and aunts and our friends to be quite different from what they are. And all this lays down a kind of secret grievance in us, a form of internal considering, which cannot be cured unless we understand about mechanicalness. It is like a typewriter finding fault with a mincing machine. It's like complaining that a pair of gloves of a different size from your own does not fit you. We have to start by seeing our own mechanicalness. As you know, we all take ourselves for granted. And what does this mean? It means that we take ourselves as being fully conscious, capable of every right adaptation to circumstances, in short, of having no machine laid down in us at all. We are quite certain that we have no fixed attitudes, ways of talking, no fixed tendencies, or even no habits. We may admit to a few physical habits, but I do not think that anyone easily admits to having any emotional or mental habits. But the work teaches that we have habits and intellectual and emotional centers that are far more important than physical habits and far more significant. People grow up as Anglicans, as Roman Catholics, as Presbyterians, as Quakers, as Methodists, as atheists, as agnostics, or even as scientists. And they are perfectly certain that their minds and their emotions are quite free from mechanicalness, that is, they're open-minded. All this has eventually to be made conscious and overcome so that a man begins to be universal in outlook and in his feelings. But it cannot be overcome unless your self-observation is keenly and full of integrity. Otherwise, you will not shift from where you are, and you will remain mechanical. A mechanical man or a woman in life. That is, you will not change. And so will not understand what the second education means. The real university that you have to attend to become healed through external considering. So one of the first great ideas in this teaching in regard to our relationship to other people is to first realize that we are mechanical and that what we do and what they do is inevitable, being mechanically determined. Many people think that they have reached this point of view and take up a kind of resigned attitude to other people. This is pure fiction. It means they have not seen their own mechanicalness, and so they get caught up in the great wheel of mechanical life, thinking that they are conscious, and yet being more and more mechanical, even than others. Now, regard yourself as mechanical. Now, to regard yourself as mechanical is extremely difficult and extremely painful, but it will change your whole relationship to other people. When you have realized that you cannot help doing something, you will realize that other people cannot help doing something, and you will no longer feel this fatal criticism, this contempt that underlies so many people's psychology. This will give you a right basis to begin to have a relationship in the work sense to other people. Do you remember this sketched out first octave of the work, which started from the note Do, which was called evaluation of the work? It is, of course, an ascending octave. So the next note is Re, which was called application of the work practically to yourself. The third note, Mi, was called realization of your own difficulties. Now, a man who begins to realize his own difficulties in the work will no longer blame other people as he used to mechanically, because everything you realize in yourself frees you from other people. I mean that if you realize your own difficulties, you will realize other people's difficulties in proportion. The more you see in yourself, the more you see in other people. If you are blind to yourself, you will never understand other people. And as you know, one of the things we are seeking in this work is understanding, which is said to be the most powerful force that we can create in ourselves. The word create is used in regard to understanding. If you behave mechanically, you will create nothing because mechanicalness creates nothing. It is only if you begin to be more conscious that you begin to understand this difficult word creation. And for full understanding, we must practice all three lines of this work, and we must get to know ourselves far more deeply than we used to. But unless there is the third line of work as well, the first two lines of work will peter out after a time. This is natural enough because how can you expect this work to continue to maintain force unless you attend to the third line, to the aim of the work, to what the work itself is trying to do at the moment? You must remember that the third line of work is getting into contact with the third force and the neutralizing force of the work. And it is exactly this that prevents the third force of life from interfering with it and bring it down to zero in the emotional center so that the work loses all its first force for you.